Все, я быстро. О, что он понял, что это было? Форус. Ё-моё! Что ты убитый? О, маленький, но... Ой, жесть. Стен нет. Ох, сколько я стену восстановил. Жесть. Ну, дом, блин. Блин. А ну, маленький, ну, ты жесть. А я сразу вижу, ну, грязный. Мусора, жесть. Не, мне не получится. Ну, самый. 5 квартир. 5. Чего? Ну, ключ найти. Чего? Я там уже вижу раздолбаху. Вот. 4. О. Да, развалюха, блин, а ну. Это толпа. Десятого. После 50-го года. В стиле 50-го. А, это дом чей-то. И жесть убитый. Я вообще не делал. Вообще что новое? А он серьезно, прикольный. Непонятно. Нет. This decision, while legal, prevented the pilots from having one last line of defense. Что-то мало. Как вообще мне уже тут этот. Мне вот этот. Еще не доделал. Где он там, блин? Разбросы я не хочу, не начал его делать. Просто я уже начал делать. Еще вчера. The recommendations lead to sweeping changes. pilots must now have more A320 training before getting behind the control. It's up to you. It's 300 hours on a plane. They estimated that 300 hours were enough. It's only got it unneeded expensive. Another change, the design of a more resistant black box. The FAA did a test, did some studies, with the thermal characteristics of post-crash fire split, came up with a value of 250 degrees C for Is that for your position? As a result of the Strasbourg crash, the A320 is now a safer plane. And you can only get this change if there is what people perceive to be a good reason. And sadly, a good reason is still an act. But improved aviation technology is still no substitute for well-trained, well-prepared pilots. There's an old axiom in aviation that we taught early on that never let an airplane take you somewhere that your brain hasn't visited at least 5 minutes ahead of time. It didn't follow that particular axiom.
Miami Beach, Florida. Sun, sand, and calm blue seas. But when a tourist points his camera towards the sky, he captures a scene of horror.
The plane is falling to the sea.
Sitting back.
As soon as I saw this, I realized, oh no, this is a top airplane crash. The downed plane is George Ocean Airways Flight 101, bound for the Bahamas. Could it have been a collision with an object? Could it have been a fire? Could it have actually been from the left? Let's not try that. The incredibly rare video may hold the answers. Can you attest that for me? An airline renowned for safety has made a fatal error. But it will take investigators hundreds of hours to finally uncover it.
Should we get the comment?
The Port of Miami, December the 19th, 2005. Giant freighters and ocean-going cruise ships are a common sight. But there's another, much smaller craft that's often seen in this port. George Ocean Airways flies seaplanes in and out of this busy waterway. Today, Flight 101 from Fort Lauderdale is making a brief stopover here on its way to the Bahamas. George flies to two regular destinations for the Bahamas. Bimini, where Flight 101 is scheduled to land this afternoon, and Paradise Island.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Just making a short stopover here in Miami to pick up some passengers. We apologize for the delay. We'll be on immediately.
How many are we picking up?
Just two, but they're VIPs.
For a small community like Bimini, short seaplanes are a lifeline.
It's just so much easier in the seaplane to get to the North Island where most of the population is than going to the airport. So that was the main thing. It was a convenience factor.
What's the word?
2
Sergio Dangillacourt is a Bacardi rum executive. He's the great-great-grandson of the company's founder. The family is well known in the local community for their anti-Castro politics. He and his wife are flying to the Bahamas to buy a yacht.
Good afternoon, folks. I'd like to welcome you to our shop production area, like when I went to hope you enjoy the flight. Let's have the start up checklist, please.
But Michelle Marks is in command of today's flight. She was promoted to captain earlier this year. First Officer Paul DeSantis joined the airline 8 months ago. This is his first flight with Captain Marks. The Grumman Mallard is a twin turboprop design. It has a V-shaped hull and underwing pontoons. It's designed to carry up to 17 passengers. The plane has retractable landing gear, so it can operate on either land or sea.
Takeoff in a Mallard, depending on the occasion, it could be a lot of fun or it could be a real challenge.
Please stand by. Check. Good. The Miami Seaplane base has no control tower. The crew has to keep a lookout for boat traffic as they taxi through one of the busiest ports in the world.
Taking off out of Miami, in the shipping capital, how trying to take off during the rush hour time. You've got boat traffic, wave traffic, wind, the airplane is moving, and everybody's going at different speeds and you're trying to get up and go and navigate around everybody. So it's always a hit.
Flight 101 will take off from X-44, a seaplane base near a channel known as Government Cup. Both pilots have their hand on the throttle. It's to prevent the captain from inadvertently pulling back if the plane hits a wave. This is the moment most passengers are paying for, the takeoff. Half speedboat and half. For the pilots, accelerating through the waves is often the most difficult part of the flight.
The airplane itself was really hard to fly as far as on the water, getting onto the deck, which was what we call getting on planes. And in rough sea conditions and rough wind conditions, it could be a real challenge.
А, да, тренажерный зал.
Flight 101 is no longer a boat, it's now a plane en route to Bimini.
Это
It's 2:38 in the afternoon. The plane's flight path takes it past South Beach, where sunbathers and surfers are out in force. Just less than a minute into the flight, the Grumman Mallard is climbing through 500 feet, well below the clouds. Then,
Бэм!
the plane rolls violently and dives. The pilots barely have time to register what's happening. Their struggles are in vain. By chance, a tourist from New York catches Flight 101's final moments on his camera. 60 seconds after takeoff, the plane slammed into the ocean. Lucas Bocanegra is a lifeguard stationed on South Beach near the Chalks Ocean Airways sea lane.
As soon as I saw this, I realized, I'm like, oh no, this is the Chalks airplane crashing.
We have 1-4, 8-1-4, right down to the water.
This is Lucas, we're launching the jet.
The two lifeguards were the first rescuers to go looking for the plane.
We drove as fast as we could to the scene of the accident. There was a lot of things in my head. I was nervous, scared. I was kind of full of adrenaline. Want to go in and try to rescue as many people as we could, but at the same time, we've never trained for a situation like this. As soon as we turned Government Cut, those jetty rocks, we noticed that it was very calm, very quiet. It wasn't like the ocean side where it was very rough. There was no waves. It was very kind of very eerie.
At first,
Еще шли все, еще второй, третий этаж еще.
Flight 101 or any of the passengers.
Little by little, we started seeing debris float up onto the surface of the water. And we saw some chairs, some luggage here and there, and suddenly we noticed there was a body roll. As soon as we put the body on our jet ski, we realized that from his injuries that there was nothing we could do. From there, we just try to recover as many bodies, bring them back to the pound.
News crews swarmed the beach.
Chalk Flight 101 plummeted into the channel in full view of tourists lining Miami Beach.
In a fraction of a second, the small plane was engulfed in flames.
Was pure fire. It was so surreal. We couldn't believe it. We were young and stuff.
Chalk 4 holds the refuge as Miami Beach Coast Guard look for any survivors.
But the effort is futile.
We retrieved some of the bodies, but we were unable to find anyone that had survived.
All 20 people, including pilots Paul DeSantis and Michelle Marks. The residents of Bimini are devastated by the horrific news.
It was very sad for the crew and the friends that I had lost on the airplane. You never expect an accident to actually happen. And to see that on television like I did, it was very, very saddening.
In Washington, senior NTSB investigator Bill English is put on the case.
I was just in my office doing some routine paperwork or something else, and the director stuck his head around the corner and said, "Well, there's been an accident." And he said, "Well, what is it?" And we mentioned it from Mallard. So I immediately knew it had to be Chalks.
Within hours, investigators are at the crash site, where 19 bodies have been recovered. One is still missing.
I was very familiar with Chalks Airways. I'm a seaplane-rated pilot myself, and there is the reputation, the legend of Chalks Airways, the oldest continuously operating airline.
Chalks has a long and rich history. The airline was founded in 1917. During the Prohibition era, passenger lists
Терялка.
included notorious rumba, and later Hollywood movie stars. Chalks planes even patrolled for German U-boats during World War II.
Ну,
So now when you're flying a Chalk, it's just all that history, all the people that have gone, and it was really a great place to work.
The Grumman Mallard flying boat that crashed was built in 1947. Chalks Ocean Airways is the only airline that uses mallards to transport passengers.
They're not really a mainstream type of airplane. And so there's always that nostalgia about it.
Salvage crews find the plane's black box. Investigators send it to the NTSB in Washington. The box promises to reveal critical information about what the pilots were doing in the seconds leading up to the tragic mid-air disaster.
In any investigation, the flight data reporter and the cockpit voice reporter are a great design. More data, the better. We can always learn something.
But Bill English knows he isn't going to get all the data he wants.
Okay, thanks.
The only recorder on board the Mallard was a cockpit voice recorder, or CVR.
Most airline aircraft have two flight recorders. The flight data recorder, depending on the aircraft, for all sorts of parameters of the flight, altitude, airspeed, control positions, and so on. The Childs airplane was not pushed to the flight data recorder, yet have
Though the lack of flight data is a big division, media coverage of the crash gives investigators
Лучше давай я сам. Воно із імперії, це не буде. Не. Воно
the video only captured the final seconds.
лучше сам.
But
Ну,
it
таке ще.
confirms eyewitness reports that a wing ripped off in mid-air.
Ну, і делаем.
video showed wing just after separation from the aircraft.
Що це больше нічого?
Part of the aircraft fuselage rolling
Yeah.
in a direction, and the fire and
Ти
the smoke
що? Що ви знаєте 100 метрів?
It was quite startling that the wind would fall off in this plane. It was a beautiful day. The water wasn't right how to take off, but all of a sudden the squeeze just dropped off. It must have been absolutely devastating.
However, the video can't reveal why the wing came off. Answers to that question may lie at the crash site, where salvage crews are finishing their recovery of the wreckage of Flight 101. The right wing is found separate from the plane, but largely intact.
О, не.
This falling off aircraft
Не називаєш.
is very rare. A few cases of them in the past 20 or 30 years.
Та ну сама така штука.
In Washington, another type of
Ти що, не сама.
At the NTSB lab, technicians are busy analyzing the
The cockpit voice recorder, which does what it sounds like, records the pilots' voices talking to each other around the shoulders.
О, пускай мені прямо.
Technicians can't retrieve any useful information.
It turned out that
Я сам знаю. Ви ж не вмієте способи драться.
it didn't erase the old stuff, so it was like it getting recorded over and over and over again. It just became a muddled sound. It wasn't audible to us.
Це я вмів способи драться.
It's another setback. Options here. Investigators have fewer and fewer tools to work with. Bill English considers the possibility that Flight 101 hit turbulence so violent that it tore the plane apart. But the weather on the day of the crash doesn't support that. There were no storms that could have caused clearly something else had taken it.
каменюка со своей.
But before they can reach a conclusion on that case, investigators consider some other intriguing evidence.
Yeah.
It's an urgent advisory
Yeah,
issued by the Aviation or FAA. In all, the use of witty parts, the propellers on the Mallard could come off during flight. You're kidding.
That's
Something such as blade separation, losing part of the propeller, could cause great structural load to the aircraft.
English now has a solid lead, but his team is still missing the evidence they need to prove their case.
Oh. Это же подготовка.
Like investigators searching for answers. More wreckage.
Куда он нажимает?
The aftermath of the crash, Chalks Ocean Airways grounds its remaining fleet of four from Mallard.
Угу.
Оружие!
Все.
At the NTSB's Miami command post, they're working to identify various plane fragments and other debris.
Ой. Ой.
Подожди, да я разбираюсь.
We started out with the wing itself that separated spar
Ну,
part of the structure of the wing, and in any of the other fracture surfaces,
ничего себе!
obvious
Конечно.
factors.
Да нет.
They carefully examined the propellers, looking for evidence that might confirm suspicions raised by the FAA advisory. But it's another dead end.
Ну ладно.
We're able to determine all the blades were attached. The bending that we saw was the expected
No.
from proper operation of those blades.
Ничего уже сначала.
Once again, they're back to
Mhm.
square one.
Давай. О. 3, 2,
The
1.
investigators focus their attention on the fractured wing.
Это
They
было.
notice something.
Самурай мастер зомби.
It's evidence of a very rapid
We want to find anything
Three
that
shots.
we should have found.
1.
Separation.
Да.
Could it have been a collision with an object? Could it have been a fire? Could it have actually been a criminal act?
Сзади.
The burn marks were not a sinister possibility.
Ничего себе.
They
Ладно, убивайся, уже серьезно. Уже гранат закидывай. До этого больше не делал.
This now goes outside the NTSB's area of expertise and authority.
Let's
Кидай гранат. Возьми. Видишь, как кидаю?
На.
На.
Оу.
Интересно.
in many situations, and
Oh, да.
utilize their expertise to rule out
Да.
terrorism.
Да ты еще не газуй, ему помочь.
It
Oh.
is
А еще?
found Flight 101.
Где? Кидай гранат. Гранат. На.
The next are coming in. We need your help.
И придется голову.
One name stands out to manifest. So,
Они сейчас сюрикены.
there are rumors on the internet that the crash was an assassination plot, and that just was the His family made a
Ну, он сильный. Ой. Камикадзе.
They were so opposed to Fidel Castro's regime
Ау.
they had allegedly supported clandestine attempts to overthrow
Нереально.
his
Да.
This is your pocket.
Жесткий, блин. Да.
We can't
Ah,
tell if
this
this
is
is
easy.
good or if
Да.
it's some explosive risk.
Тут
A
так.
bomb will
Еще
leave
ветер вот.
traces and distinct.
Да, они сюрикенами швыряют. Видишь? Это
FBI technicians are specially trained in detecting.
вообще вот. Оу. Да.
А, бей его. Я был.
Да, я знаю.
The samples of the wreckage will be tested at FBI labs in quantum
No.
Virginia.
Что за?
4 days after the accident,
Whoa.
salvage crews are
Это нереально.
Ну почему и там все?
Да я не знаю. Да. Это нереально. Вы что? Да
Ну почему вы там все?
А я не знаю.
Everything that looks like it come from the right wing.
Кинешь ты, блин.
it's right over here.
Ничего все такое. Ну, рядом.
Areas where the metal was literally ripped apart when the wind
Фига немножко. Кто? Как ты это звучишь? По барабану. Вообще нифига. Вообще не имеет вкуса, не нравится, блин.
It's easy to distinguish it from fractures that have developed slowly.
Я же говорю, что был, ну,
Got
не
this
попал.
here, here.
Блин, ну ты же жесткий.
As we started to examine the right wing, spar and other components on scene at the Coast Guard station of the seaplane base, this was a visual examination there. We didn't have a sophisticated lab.
Парень,
They identified parts to be shipped to the lab in Washington, where they hope closer inspection will reveal exactly what went wrong with the wing.
Hey, Clint. Clint, we're sending you as much of the wing as we have your wing. Yes, okay.
Тупая, блин.
The results from the FBI explosives test come in.
Чего, блин?
A mid-air bombing assassination could explain everything.
Ну, гений убил. Ну, блин, жесткий был. Автоканон с оружием. Блин, там оружие было. Ну,
Well, that's all flipped.
я не успел.
It was obvious the airplane had
Ну,
advanced groups.
что автомат.
So we needed to find out.
Там не ну.
We
Вижу
need to
его.
know more about the long history of this particular Grand Mallard.
А, вот.
It's very typical in any accident investigation when you look at the maintenance history of an aircraft. For an aircraft that's 60 years old, that's even more so important.
It takes days to comb through the 28 boxes of old records.
We want to make sure that we can develop an entire history of this aircraft, what sort of chronic problems may have shown up in the maintenance of the aircraft, and what types of work had been done on any of the factors that we feel likely to be involved.
А, все.
Clint Crozier is a structured investigator for the NPS.
When we go into an investigation, we try to go into a very open line and look at the
Okay.
We want to look at every piece that broke on the right to determine if this was a age-related failure, something that was caused by a structural error.
As with most aircraft, the Mallard's wings are built from aluminium alloy. The spars are the length of each wing. In between the spars are stringers that give added support. Together, these parts make up the wing box, which also doubles as a fuel tank. And then the skin is over top of all of that structure to kind of give a smooth aerodynamic look to the wing. All of these together work to carry the flight load that the wing is designed to carry. Once you compromise one piece of that structure, the ability to carry the normal flight load is taken compromised. Over the years, the wing box has been repaired many times. Short's mechanics have patched up areas damaged by corrosion, which is not unusual for an aging aircraft, especially a seaplane.
The fact that they land on water, which is their takeoff and landing modes are different than what happens on land. Also, they're always in water, and the corrosive effect of water is going to happen more readily.
But when investigators examine the rest of the chalk fleet, they find that the Mallards are in far worse shape than they imagined.
Corrosion. 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 Corrosion effects.
What?
The accident airplane and the other airplane from shot were rife with maintenance issues. Corrosion. There was evidence of shoddy maintenance practices on all of their other
Many of the repairs exhibited extremely poor vintage quality, triple drilling of holes, separate varieties of corrosion, scars on the material, and this involved the structural repairs that were made to the aircraft over the past years.
If Cruikshank's attention is drawn to a section of the lower, there is a metal called a doubler on the surface of the wing skin. A doubler is simply a sheet of metal skills over top of the skin.
This is a big one.
You sure It's an intriguing discovery. The patch is located exactly where the wing would lie the rest of the plane. When he takes a closer look at this section of the wing, Cruikshanks notices the edges are smooth and shiny, totally unlike the rough edges that you see on other things.
We gotta see what's under this.
This crack is not from overstress. Instead, Cruikshanks discovered it developing as a result of metal.
Is the process by which any piece of metal, like spar or anything,
Is repetitively low to the flow. You can think of it as
after a while, it breaks. It took long to low stress. That's what it was saying. Up in the air, up in land, stress. Wings. That's just like bending that paperclip back and forth.
Вчера совсем не.
Okay, let's see what the stuff is.
О, тут стены.
They find even more metal fatigue. Deep cracks cut across the wing. The extent of the damage is staggering. A crack 40 centimeters long.
Все.
Investigating.
Three machine holes in the skin fold at the leading edge after they appear to be stock drill holes.
The holes indicate that Short's mechanics have been trying to stop this threatened current. The mechanic has spotted the crack on the lower surface of the wing.
It's a tuppa.
It's called a stop drill hole. Drilling a hole in the straps that will spread out the straps. But the stop drill hole didn't work. An attempt was made to repair that screw. Kept growing. After the first stop drill, an attempt was made to further repair them by attaching double. But the double still wasn't enough. The crack on the plane skin continued to grow. Investigators now know the right wing was definitely not before the day of accident. What they But a little of an answer comes when they learned the plane was sending out warning signs of a different, more serious spot.
Опять.
Chances of the plane showing evidence according to
Что уже?
Я просто брат, я просто
while doing routine maintenance on the map, a mechanic came across fuel moving from the right wing.
Автомат. А, ты стрельнула? Ага.
Trying to fix whatever problem they had. It was
Можно сжечь.
The procedure for plugging a leak
Да.
was to immediately seal it to the inside of the empty fuel tank. The sealant could take a day to dry. Then the plane could be refueled and returned to service. The leaks should have been a clue that the crack in the wing skin was just the tip of the iceberg. But there was
Few weeks investigation in the airplane far of construction. In fact, Robin put out a service bulletin back in 1963 that warned mechanics chronically scarred of structural issue with the aircraft.
Ага.
Crookshanks examines the pieces that make up
Ну опять чихнул.
he wonders
Давай,
why
блядь.
the fuel is
Да
precisely
ё-моё.
constant efforts to repair them.
Давай. Давай. Да.
He finds his answer. Cracks in a critical support beam called a
That's a good one.
It's the piece that the plane's skin was directly attached to.
Will you finish cleaning this up and get some pictures?
Ну,
Crookshanks finds evidence that ship's mechanics are trying to repair the string.
It appears that they did some grinding on the heat string to remove the heat trap. However, they never went back and re-inspected that area.
Instead, they only applied chemical sealant to the area to make it leak-proof,
0.
and in the process concealed the damage.
Chalk made repeated attempts to repair the airplane by stopping of the wing skin cracks, adding doublers over top of the crack.
The broken Z-stringer weakened the entire wing. Now, with every takeoff and landing, the plane's skin was absorbing the forces. Over time, the skin began to crack as well.
да, блин.
The
А, да, кооператив же.
Сейчас вот выспали, не поймешь. Да. Да не, блин. Все, нажал. Так бегом. Джорди, не успеешь. Успел. Надо еще как-то. О.
Investigators concluded a hidden crack in a key component of the right
Эк.
wing led to the
Это
devastating
бомб.
crash.
Ого. Понятно. Это босс.
Chalk's
Да
failure
вот
to
нет.
identify such a serious
Воу.
problem now forces investigators to examine the airline's
Ну
log.
понятно. Не жесткий.
Chalk's Ocean Airways had an image as one of the safest airlines in the world.
Да блин. Да,
Despite the age of their fleet,
да,
the airline had an outstanding record of safety dating back almost 90 years.
да.
The Chalk State record was great. They had never lost a passenger in all the years of operation.
Chalk is an old, established company, but it seems to me that somewhere along the line, the management
Видишь, ты
and the
гранату.
quality of the work job has slipped quite a
Зомби.
bit over the past years.
Коробка чего, блин?
Ай! Птичка?
Investigators are beginning to suspect that the company's reputation for safety may have been undermined in recent years by money fraud.
А, значит, что тут
In
не
a
делать?
airline, especially a small carrier like this, can manifest themselves in many ways. Personnel are sometimes one of the first things to go.
A search of Chalk's financial history uncovered some trouble. In the 1980s, Chalk's went through a string of owners before going bankrupt in 1999.
Ай,
The airline
что
was
тут
provided
сделать?
by a Miami businessman, but it kept losing money.
Да.
Just a few months before the crash, the last attempt to sell the business fell through.
They're not doing so well.
Бедняга.
It wasn't a secret that we were having financial difficulty. I was taking pay cuts, and Catherine's had taken concessions, and we downsized a lot as far as personnel.
It wasn't just
Это да,
personnel.
легкий. Вот сейчас
It was
вот ой.
difficult for Chops to find spare parts and
Это ой.
to do some of their repairs. Chops had a number of other
That's
unreliable
what I-
aircraft that they owned that they would cannibalize for spare parts.
There were maybe only 50
Hey.
or 55 aircraft in the
Hey.
In that case, the original manufacturer
Чего красит?
was no longer
Hey.
production of that
Чего, блин?
supply of parts.
The airline's deteriorating health and the shortage of spare parts had a direct impact on safety.
There's so much regulation, there's so much just the necessity to make the airplane fly. It's hard to skip on maintenance and not impact reliability. If you impact reliability, then you just spiral down.
But no matter how tight the finances were, as a
Yeah,
commercial
yeah.
airline, Short should have been closely monitored by the Federal Aviation Administration.
На тебе. На, гранату.
In fact, the FAA did assign an inspector to work closely with Short.
The FAA inspector is called principal maintenance inspector, who's responsible for the oversight of the maintenance program as carried out by Shaw.
The inspector was aware that planes
Yeah,
suffered
yeah.
from chronic fuel leaks. And yet, inexplicably,
Да, я уже понял, к чему.
just 2 months before the crash.
Давно он удрал. Опять начинает с прыжками.
What's this guy doing?
Воу.
Investigators are at a loss to explain why the FAA
На тебе
inspector didn't
гранату.
pick up on warning
Все,
signs
почти уже.
the seaplane was giving off.
Да, на 6.
The fact that Shaw was an old established
Да.
maybe they should have accepted, well, only 33 planes, in all operation,
Эй,
they only fly during nice weather, and little old boys over there, they know what they're doing.
In fact, the FAA didn't
на.
step back and take a look at that force
О, наконец.
and find out just what's going on with this Chops airplane.
The FAA
Автомат.
pulled with choice, but it turns out that several people very close to the airline did.
Автомат. Готов.
But we did talk to this group of pilots who had left Chops prior to the accident, and every single one of them did have some story about the maintenance aspects on their aircraft, whether it had to do with fuel leaks or other maintenance aspects. They all had some level of concern about
In fact, the pilots were so convinced that in the year leading up to the crash, many of them discussed the problem